They told you that you need talent to speak English fluently. They were wrong. They told you that you need motivation, that if you're not inspired, you can't improve. That's not true either. What you really need is 30 minutes. 30 quiet, consistent, imperfect minutes every day, even when you're tired, even when you don't feel ready. Because here's the uncomfortable truth no one talks about. Your fluency doesn't depend on intelligence, it depends on rhythm. And the reason most people stay stuck for years isn't because they're lazy, it's because they never created a ritual. In this story, you'll discover how one small routine, done daily, can rewire your brain, upgrade your identity, and change the way you see yourself forever. Yes, it's about English, but it's also about something deeper, your future, your focus, your quiet power. So if you've ever felt like English is just out of reach, like you're learning and forgetting, trying and failing, this story will show you the path most learners never find. And it all begins with a moment of truth, a timer, and a decision. He used to think fluent English speakers had some kind of secret power, like they were born special, gifted, maybe even lucky. Every time he tried, it felt hard. He'd listen to podcasts, read quotes, watch videos, but the words didn't stay. The sentences didn't flow. Deep inside, a voice kept whispering, maybe English just isn't for you. And that quiet doubt slowly became a belief. But one evening, exhausted, emotionally drained from a day of feeling behind, something shifted. He wasn't looking for motivation anymore. He just needed peace. So he sat on the floor, opened a simple English reader, set a 30-minute timer, and told himself, no distractions, just this. It didn't feel magical. It felt ordinary. But when the timer beeped, something felt possible. That night, he realized something that changed everything. He didn't need to study harder. He didn't need more talent. He just needed rhythm, a small daily beat, a ritual that didn't wait for motivation. That's when the shift happened. He started to say, consistency is my superpower now. Not perfectly, not with energy every day, but he showed up, tired, messy, imperfect, and that became his new identity. Before, his mind was chaotic. He studied emotionally, not intentionally. One day grammar, next day pronunciation, then Netflix with no subtitles. It was like trying to fill a cup with holes. Nothing stayed, and that's the painful truth. When you study without rhythm, you don't just lose time, you lose confidence. You begin to doubt your own ability, and that doubt poisons everything. The ritual began small. A notebook, a timer, one English video, no multitasking, just presence. He didn't need 3 hours of study, just 30 minutes of focus. Some days he shadowed a sentence over and over. Other days he wrote about his day in English, slowly, awkwardly. But each day his brain became a little more familiar with the language. The fear started to melt, and in its place, flow. He understood something deeper now. Language isn't just memory, it's momentum. The more you show up, the more your brain trusts you. It stops fighting, starts flowing. That's when he chose his ritual. Mornings, 10 minutes shadowing, 10 minutes reading aloud, 10 minutes journaling. The structure set him free. It wasn't a cage, it was a bridge, a way to cross over from stuck to in motion. When his friend said, "You're so disciplined," he smiled. Not because he was proud, but because he knew the truth. He wasn't more disciplined. He was just done with inconsistency, done with chasing perfection, done with waiting for motivation. He learned to show up when it was hard, not when it was easy. That's when his English and his life started to grow. And now, every night, he prepares for the next day, not with pressure, with respect. He writes down 10 minutes shadowing, 10 minutes listening, 10 minutes writing. That's it, not complex, not dramatic, just a ritual that feels like coming home. But the real shift, it wasn't in his English, it was in his belief about who he could become. And that belief is where the real story begins. If you want to stay stuck forever, there's a perfect strategy. Study only when you're in the mood. Wait for inspiration, for energy, for stars to align. And guess what? Days pass, weeks pass. English stays the same because mood is unreliable, like chasing the wind. Real growth doesn't ask how you feel. It asks, will you show up anyway? If you want to keep your English weak, here's another tip. Switch apps every 30 seconds. Open one, close it, open another. Start a YouTube lesson, pause it halfway, scroll Instagram. It feels like activity, but it's not learning, it's digital chaos. Your brain can't absorb what it never finishes. Want real progress? Choose one video, one lesson, and sit with it until the end. Even if your mind screams, I'm bored. You want to be overwhelmed? Great. Follow 20 teachers, jump between 10 methods and compare every accent. Confuse your brain with conflicting advice. One day, American English, next day, British idioms, third day, grammar drills, fourth day, fluency hacks. Your brain doesn't know what to trust. But if you want clarity, real clarity, pick one method, one teacher, one system for just 1 week, and commit. Want to feel frustrated forever? Make perfection your goal. Wait until you get it perfectly before you speak. Judge every sentence. Avoid mistakes. Think too much. And what happens? Silence, fear, paralysis. But here's the truth most learners never hear. Fluency doesn't come from brilliance. It comes from repetition, mistakes, rhythm. Perfection kills progress. But routine creates momentum. Still want slow results? Keep skipping your English time. Say, I'll do it later. Tell yourself, today was too busy. Watch one more video, but don't practice. That's how you build the identity of a dreamer, not a doer. But here's the secret. The moment you say yes when it's hard, you start becoming someone new, the version of you who speaks fluently. They show up even when it's uncomfortable. Want to make your brain sleepy during English time? Keep learning passively. No speaking, no writing, just watching. Let English pass through your ears like background noise. You'll feel like you're studying, but don't be surprised when nothing sticks. To remember, you need output. Listen, then shadow. Read, then summarize. Watch, then write about what you understood. Passive input is not enough. Wish to feel confused every day? Keep changing your goals. Monday, focus on vocabulary. Tuesday, try pronunciation. Wednesday, switch to business English. No direction, no progress, but a simple solution. Write down one weekly goal, just one. For example, this week I will shadow 3 videos and journal every day. Small, clear, focused. That's how you build fluency like a mountain, one rock at a time. And finally, if you want to stay average, do what average people do. Wait. Wait for the right time, the perfect plan, the best method. But while you're waiting, someone else is showing up, tired, confused, imperfect, and improving. You don't need magic. You need movement. And sometimes that movement begins with a decision so small, it almost feels invisible. But it leads to the next chapter. There was a man whose life was always full, too full in fact. He worked 2 jobs, morning shift at a store, night shift cleaning offices. By the time he got home, his back hurt and his mind was numb. English? He wanted to learn it badly. But when? When your day belongs to survival, dreams feel like luxury. So, he told himself, maybe fluency just isn't for people like me. But one night changed everything. He was on the bus, half asleep, when he saw a video titled, Learn English with Graded Readers. He clicked it, expecting just another tutorial. But what he heard was different. It said, all you need is 30 minutes. No excuses. That line hit him like a lightning bolt. He paused. Could it really be that simple? 30 minutes. Even he could find 30 minutes. So he made a deal with himself. From now on, every night on the bus ride home, he would read or listen in English. No social media. No scrolling. Just him and a story. The first night felt strange. He had to reread every sentence. He misunderstood basic words, but he finished the story. And for the first time in years, he felt proud of himself. Quietly proud. By day 10, something shifted. Words began to feel familiar. Sentences flowed more easily. On day 20, he caught himself whispering phrases from the story under his breath. On day 45, something happened. A tourist asked him for directions, and he answered, naturally, fluently. No panic, just presence. That moment stayed with him like a photograph in his memory. I can speak. What people didn't see was the discipline behind the scenes. Rain or shine, tired or stressed, he kept his 30-minute promise. Some nights he shadowed conversations. Some nights he journaled about his workday in English. And some nights he just listened, eyes closed, letting the language sink into his bones. No pressure, just rhythm. That rhythm rewired his brain and rewrote his identity. People started to notice. His co-workers said, "You speak more confidently now." His boss asked him to help translate during a customer call. His niece, who struggled in school, said, "Teach me like you learned." But he wasn't teaching. He was living proof that small habits create big transformations. Not because he had time, but because he created it. One day, he recorded a short video diary in English, just 20 seconds. He talked about his day, his dreams, and his progress. When he watched it back, he almost cried, not because his English was perfect, it wasn't, but because he saw someone he used to believe was impossible, a fluent speaker, a version of himself he used to doubt. And now, he was that man. He didn't get there by chasing motivation. He didn't get there by finding the best method. He got there by choosing to show up. And that 30-minute habit? It didn't just change his English. It changed his self-image. The man who was too busy became the man who created space. The man who used to survive started to evolve. And with each passing day, that evolution became unstoppable. There's a reason your brain feels tired after starting something new. It doesn't hate learning, it hates uncertainty. When your study routine changes every day, your brain wastes energy just figuring out what's happening. But when you give it a consistent rhythm, it relaxes, it opens up. It says, I know this. And that's when real learning begins, not with chaos, but with predictability. Think of it like this. If you always study at 8 p.m., your brain prepares for English without you even trying. The resistance becomes softer. The distractions shrink. This is called cognitive priming. Just like your body feels sleepy when you lie in bed, your brain feels ready when you keep the same study hour. That's why the ritual matters more than motivation. Ritual turns learning into a reflex. And there's more. Repetition doesn't just build memory, it reduces friction. The first time you shadow a sentence, it feels robotic. The third time, it starts to feel alive. By the fifth time, your mouth and mind start moving together. That's cognitive ease. Your brain stops fighting the words and starts dancing with them. So instead of chasing new material every day, try repeating the same story 2 days in a row. You see, we become what we repeat, not what we imagine. It's easy to say, I want to speak fluently, but it's the tiny, repeated actions that build fluency. One shadowing session, one English voice memo, one reading habit. That's what rewires identity. Say this, I show up. It's a small sentence, but it speaks a massive truth. Fluency isn't magic, it's momentum. Now here's something most learners never realize. Your confidence grows with small wins. Every session that ends with success, even a tiny one, builds your brain's belief in itself. That's why you shouldn't end your English time in confusion. Always finish with something clear. Repeat a sentence, journal a thought. Say out loud, today I made progress. That closing moment becomes your next beginning. You don't need to feel inspired to study. You need to feel familiar. Your brain works better when it knows the pattern. Same time, same tools, same ritual. That's how you train fluency, like a musician trains a song, not by switching melodies every day, but by playing the same one until it becomes part of their fingers. Fluency lives inside repetition, with rhythm, and when your mind stops wasting energy on how or when to study, something powerful happens. It starts using that energy to absorb, connect, predict. That's the fluency zone. It's not louder, it's not faster, it's calmer. You feel like you're inside the language and not outside trying to grab pieces. That's what a daily ritual gives you, mental calm with maximum absorption. So next time you feel off, ask yourself, did I break my rhythm? Because often the struggle isn't in the language, it's in the lack of pattern. Your brain loves rhythm. It trusts routine, and when it knows what to expect, it begins to exceed your expectations. And that shift, it's not just psychological, it leads you into something deeper. Did you enjoy the content and it made a difference for you? Click on Super Thanks and support our work. At first he thought discipline was a punishment, something cold, something strict, something for people who were naturally strong, not for someone like him. But as the weeks passed and his 30-minute English habit stayed strong, something surprising happened. Discipline began to feel peaceful, like a quiet act of self-respect. Every time he showed up, he was telling himself, "You matter." He used to think identity was fixed, that you were either lazy or not, focused or not. "I've never been consistent," he'd say. But now, without even noticing, he was becoming someone new, and it wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet, like internal architecture, brick by brick, repetition by repetition. He wasn't just learning English. He was building a person he could trust. Every day he skipped used to feel innocent. It's just one day. But now he saw the truth. Skipping wasn't neutral. It was betrayal, not betrayal to a teacher or a goal, but to his future self. Every time he ignored his ritual, he was saying, "You don't matter." And when he started showing up, even on hard days, he began writing a different message to the man he was becoming. There's a kind of strength that comes from keeping promises to yourself, not the loud, dramatic kind, but the kind that grows deep roots. That's what he was discovering. When he planned his 30-minute session and actually did it, he didn't just gain vocabulary. He gained dignity, quiet pride, the kind that doesn't need applause, just a deep breath and a smile. He started noticing something strange. When he practiced English, he felt calmer in other parts of life too, less reactive, more present. Why? Because his ritual wasn't just about language, it was about grounding. In a world that felt chaotic and loud, this habit gave him structure. One space, one time. One promise he kept even when the world around him didn't make sense. His old identity had cracks in it, beliefs like, "I'm not consistent," or "I always quit." But every 30-minute session was like sealing those cracks with truth. And one day, without even realizing it, he said to himself, "I'm a disciplined person." It felt foreign and also real. He didn't become that overnight. He became that by showing up when no one was watching. He once thought fluency was about mastering grammar or memorizing words, but now he saw something deeper. Fluency was about trust, in his own rhythm, in his own mind, in his ability to follow through. His voice in English grew stronger, but more than that, his voice inside became clearer. He no longer needed to believe in motivation, he believed in momentum. And that shift, from identity of doubt to identity of discipline, was the beginning of everything. He didn't just feel different. He was different, not because the world changed, but because his relationship with himself had. And when that changes, something else wakes up inside you. Something that leads not just to transformation, but to the science behind it all. Your brain is not a machine. It's more like a garden, soft, alive, responsive to rhythm. And there's a window of time, a sweet spot, when the garden is ready to receive new seeds. That window, about 30 minutes, not too long to burn out. Not too short to stay shallow, just long enough for focus to go deep and repetition to start shaping your neural paths. Neuroscientists call it a neuroplasticity window. It's when your brain is flexible, able to change, adapt, rewire, but it only opens when you're present, not multitasking, not rushing. That's why your 30-minute ritual works best when the distractions are off and your intention is on. One video, one practice, one moment. That's how you stop studying English and start absorbing it. Half input, half output. That's the golden formula. If you only listen, your brain becomes passive. If you only speak, your accuracy suffers. But when you listen and speak in the same session, even if it's just 15 minutes each, you reinforce the neural circuits on both sides. That's how language becomes part of you, not memorized, internalized. Let's break it down. 15 minutes of shadowing a real conversation, pausing, mimicking, repeating the rhythm. Then 15 minutes of speaking aloud, maybe journaling, maybe describing your day, maybe teaching what you just learned. It doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, it shouldn't be. It should be real, messy, alive. That's how the circuits grow strong. And here's the quiet secret of memory. It loves repetition more than intensity. One 30-minute session daily is far more powerful than 3 hours once a week. Why? Because memory works like paint. It needs layers. Each day's review is another layer, another coat, sealing what was once faint into something permanent. So before starting something new, review yesterday's material for just 3 minutes. That's how you build fluency with less stress. As you stay consistent, something remarkable happens. Your brain starts predicting English. You hear the beginning of a sentence and your mind already knows how it might end. That's fluency rhythm, not guessing, flowing. It means your brain isn't translating anymore. It's thinking in English. And that shift comes from one thing only: daily exposure inside a predictable time frame. So next time you feel like you're not learning fast enough, don't ask for a new method. Ask for more rhythm, because the method is only as good as the mind behind it. And the mind learns best when it knows. At this time every day, I will enter the language. It's not a study session. It's a ceremony, a meeting between you and the future you're building. Shadow 1 minute. Speak one thought. Listen to one truth. You don't need to be a scientist to rewire your brain. You just need to respect the process. And when you do, when you show up for your 30 minutes like it's sacred, something beautiful begins to unfold. And before you even realize it, the people around you begin to notice the change too. At first it was invisible, quiet, like a seed growing under the soil. He didn't feel fluent, he didn't feel impressive, but something inside was changing. His voice started to sound different, smoother, calmer, more grounded. He wasn't rushing anymore. He was choosing his words. Not because he was fluent yet, but because he was more connected to what he was saying. Then one day, someone said, "You sound different when you speak English now, more confident." And he paused. He hadn't noticed. He still felt unsure, still made mistakes, but others could hear it. The rhythm, the steadiness, the intention. He wasn't performing, he was present, and that small shift said more than any test score ever could. The change wasn't just in tone, it was in structure. His sentences were smoother, clearer, more alive. And here's the surprising part. He wasn't even studying grammar. He wasn't memorizing rules. He was absorbing structure through stories, repetition, and real input. That's the hidden power of consistent exposure. Your brain learns patterns without pressure. In the past, he would freeze when someone asked him a question in English. Now, he paused, then responded. Not perfectly, but naturally. He didn't panic. He didn't overthink. He trusted the rhythm. He trusted himself. And people around him started to notice that quiet self-assurance, the kind that doesn't scream for attention, but makes people listen more closely. His co-workers started asking him for help with translation. His little brother asked, "Can you teach me how to speak like that?" His boss even mentioned him in a meeting, saying, "Your communication has really improved." He smiled, not because he wanted praise, but because he knew this wasn't luck. It was the reward of quiet consistency. You see, people respect consistency. Not because it's flashy, but because it's rare. Most people start and stop. They make promises, break them, and disappear. But when someone shows up, quietly, daily, with focus, others feel it. They trust you more. They listen when you speak. That's not just a language upgrade, that's a reputation upgrade. And here's the beauty. New opportunities begin to appear, not all at once, but gradually like cracks of sunlight through the curtains. A friend invites you to a language exchange. A client notices your confidence. A travel opportunity feels possible again. All because your voice, the one you thought was not good enough, finally started to show up in the world. But the most powerful moment wasn't when others noticed him. It was when he started to see it too. In the mirror, in his voice memos, in the way he walked into a room. He wasn't just speaking differently. He was becoming someone new. And the final realization, the one that would shift his identity forever, was only one chapter away. He sat with his notebook, looking at the words he had written. Simple sentences, nothing special. But as he read them aloud, he felt something deeper. Not pride, not confidence, something quieter, like recognition. This is me now, not the old version, full of fear and hesitation, but the version that kept showing up, the version that didn't quit. Why did I transform? He asked himself. It wasn't a special method. It wasn't a perfect teacher. It was one thing. I showed up every day, without drama, without needing to feel ready, just 30 minutes, again and again, and with each session I built trust. Not in English, in myself, and that trust became my power. What did those minutes give me? Clarity, courage, confidence, but not the kind you show off, the kind that lives quietly in your breath when you speak, in the way you pause then respond, in the way you stop fearing judgment because you know you're building something real. That kind of confidence doesn't arrive all at once. It grows, like roots beneath the surface. Who am I becoming? Not just an English learner, not just a student, a fluent thinker, someone who expresses thoughts clearly, someone who finishes what they start, someone who doesn't need to prove anything because their actions speak louder. That's what fluency really is. It's not speed, it's alignment between who you are and how you speak. He stood in front of the mirror one evening and whispered in English, "I am consistent. That's my power." It wasn't perfect pronunciation, but it was perfect truth. He wasn't fluent because he knew every word. He was fluent because he no longer avoided his own voice. And once you stop avoiding your voice, everything changes. He opened his phone, hit record, and spoke for 60 seconds, non-stop, about his day, his thoughts, his plans. And when he played it back, he didn't hear mistakes. He heard progress, he heard effort, he heard someone who used to be afraid, now becoming someone unrecognizable in the best possible way. He had one final realization. The 30-minute habit didn't change his English, it changed who he believed he was. Before, he believed he was lazy, unfocused, not language smart. But now, he believed he was someone who shows up, someone who keeps going. And that belief didn't just stay in English, it started to shape every part of his life. And so he whispered one final sentence before going to sleep. My new life begins in 30 minutes, today, tomorrow, and always. Not just in English, in everything. Because when you change your daily habits, you begin to change your future. And the most powerful transformation is the one you create with your own hands, 1 minute at a time. So now it's your turn. You've seen the truth, that fluency isn't something you chase, it's something you create 30 minutes a day. That's it. Not because the time is magical, but because it's yours. What would happen if you gave yourself that space every single day? No matter how messy, no matter how late, no matter how tired. What if fluency wasn't just about speaking better, but about trusting yourself more? You already have the power. The only question is, will you respect it? Let me ask you, what would your life look like if you kept one promise to yourself for the next 30 days? What version of you is hiding behind the habit you keep skipping? Think about the job you didn't apply for, the conversation you were too scared to have, the dream you quietly put aside. What if English wasn't the obstacle, but the door? And now you have the key. If this story touched something inside you, if it gave you even 1% more belief, then let's keep growing together. Subscribe to the channel, like this video, share your journey in the comments below, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next story that could change your day or your life. Because here, we don't just learn English, we become someone new. One word, one story, one quiet habit at a time.